And welcome to the Decatur Dish with Atlanta News First and our media partners at Decatur Dish. I am Maria Moreau, joined by the one and only Dan Wisenhunt, who is truly live from DeKalb County.
Truly, we appreciate A&F's flexibility today. As many of your viewers are aware, schools are closed. The roads are not expected to be in good shape, so we had to do this remotely today. So we do appreciate the flexibility there for us working parents.
How is it out there in DeKalb County, by the way? We are monitoring a winter weather warning, a lot of updates from officials that are pouring in, telling folks, stay off the roads as we get into these afternoon hours, especially if you are in South Georgia. How is it in your neck of the woods?
Well, I look out the window. I don't see any snow. A lot of parents are making note of that. There was some considerable angst about the decision to close today, and I understand that. It's never convenient to have to stay home when a child is supposed to be in school. I was doing the math, and so far in January, we've had a total of 9 full instructional days in school with the 2 breaks that we've had that were related to weather plus the holiday. What I like to remind people of, though, is the Snowmageddon incident, where prior to that, if people will remember, there was a decision to close school based on a forecast. That forecast turned out to not be as dire as it had been predicted. So the next time there was a forecast where the chance of snow was iffy, they decided to roll the dice and have school. The problem with that was the snow did fall, the schools all dismissed at a different time, and therefore all of the places of employment Atlanta dismissed at a different time too. And that's how we had what is now commonly referred to as Snowmageddon, where kids had to sleep in schools, people had to sleep in department stores because the roads were intraversable. So as irksome as it can be to cancel school for a quote unquote snow day and to not see snow on the ground, I think what people have to appreciate is that the people who are making that decision were also around when Snowmageddon happened, and under no circumstances are they going to let something that embarrassing happen to this city again. So whenever there's doubt, they will err on the side of caution, and that is why I am doing the show remotely today.
Lead by example, as they say.
Indeed.
It's funny you mentioned Snowmageddon earlier on ANF Plus. We took folks out to a news conference where Governor Kemp also discussed it, saying this is likely not going to be at that level, but they're monitoring for worsening conditions and making sure they're doing everything to prepare. So, important time for you to download the First Alert Weather app so you can get weather notifications in your specific area and tune in a little closer to your news outlets, Decatur Dish, ANF, so that we can update you on any impacts that might interfere with your day and your plans. But this is the Decatur Dish, so we're not going to keep giving you a weather lecture. We want to get into the top stories making headlines out in DeKalb County, and it was a big day for a special someone in DeKalb County, none other than new DeKalb CEO Lorraine Cochran Johnson.
Yes, Lorraine Cochran Johnson is the first black female in history. She's technically been on the job since January 1. She had an official swearing in on January 17th. Dean Hess took some photos of that. It was well attended by various public officials. Safe to say, Lorraine Cochran Johnson has had a very busy first few weeks. There was a water main break in Chamblee that resulted in a boil water advisory. There's been some news we'll get to in a moment regarding the consent decree about DeKalb County's water and sewer work primarily. And we're also going to be talking shortly about the water rate increase. So she is now the elected official, and all of this is hitting her at once. She's got a lot to do. She's been very busy these first few days, and we hope very soon we'll be able to get her back on as a guest right here on the show to talk about how her first few days have gone, what she has learned, and what we can expect going forward in 2025.
Dan, have you had a chance to talk to CEO Cochran Johnson?
She and I text. She's very busy. Obviously, I want to respect her chain of command as far as communications, because if she responded to every person who texted her, she would be distracted from doing the important work that she needs to do. I will tell you that based on the texts that I have exchanged with her, she's engaged. She's aware there are issues. Part of the problem that she has had is that she's inherited communication strategies that have been in place before she got here. So she's having to build the plane while she is flying it in some respects. So it's a lot to take over a job like that and then be immediately hit with a water main break, boil water advisory crisis, and have to depend on a communications team that you probably didn't handpick all of the members of to get the messaging out there. So I think we're all, those of us who have been paying attention to this stuff for a long time are giving her a little bit of grace these first few days as she gets oriented and gets her feet under her and starts to figure these things out and starts to put her team in place.
Well, let's talk about that water main break that you mentioned, because this is going to impact a lot of residents. The water main break is resolved, but continuing water infrastructure issues will impact residents, and that's kind of coming to a point where officials in the county can't ignore it any longer.
That's right, Maria. The water rates have not gone up in some time. I think I spoke to a county commissioner the other day, and if I'm recalling this conversation correctly, the last time they raised water rates was in 2022, and they hadn't really done it before that. But our infrastructure needs are acute. The cost of things continues to go up due to inflation. And A&F's Patrick Quinn did an excellent piece of reporting about the impact that the proposed water rate increases will have on consumers here in DeKalb County.
Let's take a look.
Final fixes, as DeKalb leaders say after 72 hours, the water main break along Claremont Road has finally been repaired. But as this is resolved, new DeKalb CEO Lorraine Cochran Johnson recognized this break is just a reflection of a much bigger issue under the surface.
Across DeKalb, we're working to expand, replace, and enlarge our infrastructure, because aging infrastructure, unfortunately, is nothing new. And as a result of it, these are the types of issues that we face.
To build a new water and sewer system, DeKalb will soon turn to its taxpayers. CEO Cochran Johnson is now proposing a significant spike to your water bill, a 10% increase every year for the next 10 years.
Honestly, this is a perfect time to have the conversation, because what you see today, it requires money.
And we're talking a lot of money. Cochran Johnson said they need to raise $400 million annually. We broke it down. For the average resident who pays $70 per month for water, if this proposal is approved, starting later this year, you'll pay $77. Then next year, you'll pay $84.70 per month. Then in 2027, $93.17. And in 10 years, in 2034, you'll pay more than $180 per month for water. Advocacy groups like DeKalb Water Watch recognize the need, but stressed the county must keep those low income and already struggling top of mind.
What we're saying is, if you're going to do a rate increase that is this significant, it is just good economic sense to protect your most vulnerable citizens if you want them to still be around 10 years from now.
Cochran Johnson told me she's proposing $1 million in relief assistance, adding this latest water main break is proof the county cannot afford to wait any longer to fix its water system.
This is not a matter of choice. This is a matter of public safety.
Yeah, this is a matter of public safety, and there's two sides to this, because you have residents who are like, how in the world, in the midst of inflation, am I going to also address this water bill at a 10% increase per year? And then the other side of it is, well, what are we going to do about our water infrastructure?
That's right, Maria. The other issue that DeKalb County elected leaders are facing with regard to this is a simple issue of trust. The leadership should have been working on this a lot sooner. They should have begun implementing water rate increases a long time ago, and we should have made progress on all of these issues. But because it was more easy for leaders to kick the can, as it were, it's all coming to a head now. And the issue that a lot of us have as ratepayers is are can we trust you to do what you say you're going to do with the money that we're giving you to fix the problems? Because we trusted you to fix the problems and do what you needed to do before that happened. One question I have, and it's going to tie into the consent decree work related to the sewer system we'll talk about in just a bit. Are the increased water rates going to also go to pay for work that's being done under the sewer consent decree? And more importantly, will those rate increases be used to pay any fines that we might incur for not meeting our obligations under that consent decree? These are all really weighty questions that we as DeKalb County taxpayers and residents have to answer. And although Lorraine Cochran Johnson did not create this problem, as CEO, she's the one who's going to be tasked with solving it. And she's going to be the one tasked with assuring members of the public that we can trust the county to keep its promises with regard to upgrading watershed infrastructure if we are actually going to approve a rate increase and give them extra money to do this work.
Yeah, and it's a matter of navigating all of that while also getting taxpayers and really the county residents who are most impacted by this to kind of show up and back this in a way. Decatur Dish put out a fantastic article kind of addressing something that might have slipped under the radar, and that was now former CEO Michael Thurmond writing a letter to the EPA regarding some of the water infrastructure issues that need to be addressed. Talk to me about that.
Gather around and I will tell everyone a tale of sewer infrastructure woe. The DeKalb County government has been grappling with issues pertaining to sanitary sewer overflows, most specifically in South DeKalb County, for going on 2 decades at this point. There was an original consent decree that was put into place around 2010, 2011 that was intended to settle violations of the Clean Water Act, the things that regulate the quality of water in our community. County had been, again, just like the water, had not been upgrading its sewer infrastructure in a timely fashion and didn't have the capacity to deal with these issues. So the federal government and the county came to an agreement. They said, in lieu of us taking you to court, we're going to enter this agreement. It's called a consent decree, and you're going to be obligated to fix this or you're going to face fines. Well, as we all know, DeKalb County has had a long-standing issue with keeping its promises with regard to water and sewer infrastructure because this stuff is hard and it costs a lot of money, and it's not always politically popular to do because it means putting costs onto taxpayers, and those are the same taxpayers that have to elect you every 4 years. So Michael Thurmond was elected in 2016. Under his leadership, the county and the EPA and EPD renegotiated the consent decree. The original consent decree set a timeline deadline of 2020. It was obvious the county was not going to meet that. So Michael Thurmond and the EPA and EPD came up with a timetable of December 2027. The county had to pay a fine. There were some reporting requirements, and that was that. Fast forward to the end of Michael Thurmond's term. His last day in office was on December 31st. Michael Thurmond sent a letter to the Environmental Protection Agency and EPD. He talked about the progress that the county has made with regard to reducing sanitary sewer overflows, the sewer spills, the stuff that gets into our waterways. He's right about that. The county has made significant progress in reducing sanitary sewer overflows. They've made some of the upgrades that they're required to do under the consent decree. The overarching issue is about capacity in South DeKalb. There was a proposal. I'm still digging into where this proposal came from and why it was on the table to build a sewer capacity, wet weather storage is what they call it, near the Hidden Hills neighborhood, which is an upper middle class black enclave in Stone Mountain. Mike Thurmond rejected that, said it was an environmental justice issue, and said the better solution would be to retrofit storage that is at the Snapfinger water treatment plant in South DeKalb. The caveat to all that is that's not going to get done by December 2027. So the short story here is that Mike Thurmond, on his last day in office, alerted the EPA and EPD to the possibility that the county would not meet its deadline under the consent decree. In addition, he told the EPA and EPD that the hydraulic model that they used to determine the amount of capacity they would need to accommodate all of this was flawed at the time, and they relied on the best available information. The problem with that is that's not what they told the EPA at the time. So the EPA and the Justice Department is none too happy to find out all of this information, and they have asked for a status hearing that's going to take place on Monday, January 27th, I believe, in federal court in Atlanta. With any luck, we will be there and be able to hear what's going on. But the county is being taken to court over this issue. Lorraine Cochran Johnson is saying that she's going to do everything that she can to comply with the consent decree. The county commission held a lengthy executive session last week, came out, voted to pursue a modification of the consent decree, also voted to support the plan that Michael Thurmond had put forth, which was retrofitting the sewage storage over at Snapfinger. I have a few questions about this issue. Number one, what prompted Michael Thurmond to send the letter when he sent it? Because the easier thing to do, one would assume, is to not say anything and let the person who came after him deal with the fallout. But that's not what he did. He sent this letter the last day in office. It's kicked off a legal proceeding. The county's going to have to spend some money on attorneys. Fines are possible. There's going to be a lot of things that get kicked up in the near future over this, and it is a parallel but not entirely separate conversation from the water rates conversation we were just having.
And I know Decatur-ish will continue to follow every development and update that comes with that. And believe me, there will be more. This is the Decatur Dish. We do this weekly show every Tuesday where we stop and talk about what's been going on in DeKalb County. It's an extraordinary partnership between Atlanta News First and Decatur-ish, but the news never stops. Not for Atlanta News First and certainly not for your team, Dan. So where can people connect with Decatur-ish?
Decatur.com is where you're going to be able to get all of the latest news from Decatur-ish, and supportyourlocalnews.com is where you can pay to support our work. We'd also encourage our viewers and readers to download the Atlanta News First Plus app. A&F has done a wonderful job with the weather forecast on this. They've gotten it right for the most part, and they've been very reliable and dependable. Downloading that app's a great way to support us and a great way to support our partners at Atlanta News First. You can get that on your cellular phones or any of your streaming devices.
And with that, you can go to atlantanewsfirst.com/Decatur Dish, and you can find more episodes where Dan and I chit-chat about all the chaos and fun and heartfelt stories that come with DeKalb County news. We will see you right here live next Tuesday at 12:30. Make it a great day, everybody.